This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today is the first day of the 2019-2020 NBA season. We are super excited to be back. I think this is my fourth season doing this in a row, so I'm pretty excited.
Already?
Yeah, it's been four.
Oh my
old.
God.
I mean, there's a 5. It might be 5
I'll
for me
look it up.
because it was 2015, I think, was my first year. But I think that's 4 seasons, if I'm
When
doing
did
my
LaMarcus
math
Aldridge
correct.
get his
That's
contract?
what I'm looking at.
But that's different for you guys because I didn't start then.
Yeah,
And you guys didn't do it continuous. I started it was the 73 season.
Oh, okay.
That was my first topic that
The
I
first
did.
segment was no. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know my podcast.
I'm thinking the first one we did was the Ty Lue getting fired.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying me.
Sean is our continuous host
not
of...
Ty Lue getting fired. David Black getting fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler ended
Sean
up
is the
being...
continuous host of the
Yeah,
Fast
I
Break
mean,
Podcast.
I restarted it. I took what you guys were doing. It was okay, and now I made it a million times better. We went from 100 subs to 16,000 subs, and that's why.
That's entirely on your
Dave
credit.
wanted
It
to
is.
do. Dave's like, hey, we should do an NBA podcast. Cool, Dave, I'll do it with you. Did it a couple weeks, and we're done.
I can't help the fact that at that point in time, I was not ready to do a podcast consistently. That's not on me. I'm not taking blame for that.
Anyways, I think it was the 2015-2016 NBA
LaMarcus
season.
Aldridge was March of 20.
No one cares about that dumb podcast. I'm being selfish. Damn it.
July
It was the 2015-2016 season, so it was 4 seasons ago. So this is my 4th straight season of doing this podcast. We're super excited. We're going to start off with Bradley Beal, some kind of lingering off-season news before we get into the actual regular season stuff. But some off-season news, Bradley Beal signing a contract extension, a 2-year maximum contract extension. We'll talk about that and how it will affect his future with the Wizards. What is it going to look like? With John Wall, when is he going to be traded? If he is going to be traded, is he going to be a Wizard for life? We'll talk about all those implications. Then we will talk about stuff that will affect this season for sure. Zion Williamson going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. We'll talk about all the details there and talk about what it's going to do and mean for the Pelican season. And then finally, we had 5 massive contract extensions given out to rookies from the 2016 draft. Jaylen Brown, Buddy Hield, Domantas Sabonis, DeJounte Murray, and then Pascal Siakam. We'll talk about all those, rank them, which one's most important, which one was the worst, all that good stuff, all in this podcast. But before we jump into the Bradley Beal talk, just check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. I think I forgot the slash.
Yeah.
Check that out. You can help support us. You can help continue us into our 5th season, maybe in 2020, 2021. It's going to be super fun. So definitely check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast if you want to help us out. But let's jump into the Bradley Beal talk. This was done on October 17th, 2019. Bradley Beal agreed to a 2-year maximum contract extension with the Wizards. The extension is worth more than the maximum of $72 million, begins with the 2021-2022 season, and includes a player option for the 2022-2023 season. So this year he will continue to make $27 million. Next year he will also make $28.7, and then his extension kicks in 2021, 2022, and he'll start making $34.5 million, and then in 2022, 2023 he has a player option for $37.2 million. But the most probably intriguing part of this is that he's going to be ineligible to be traded this season due to the markup, I guess, of his contract. It pretty much has to do with, since he's making so much more in his extension, he cannot be traded this year. So very interesting, details that are coming out all about this extension. Going into this season, we kind of thought that he was going to be, trade candidate number 1.
He was the hot topic for the entire summer.
And now that's completely taken off the board. So let's jump into at least that first part and let's get that out of the way because he can't be traded this year. So how does that affect the NBA? Because he was going to be a guy that maybe he is that third and final piece to a championship team. Maybe at the trade deadline, he's that guy that can just push a team completely over the edge. You're adding a great two-way player. You're adding an all-star in Bradley Beal. How is it going to affect the NBA that Bradley Beal can't be traded in 2019, 2020?
I think it's going to raise the value of a lot of guys who are, right in that tier below Bradley Beal. Or some people want to stay on the same tier, but people, if the Pelicans have a rough year and there's a great offer for Drew Holiday, I think that would be interesting. I think there's a lot of those guys who are just, quarter notch down from Bradley Beal that teams would be very interested into adding a piece who is, like you said, savvy two-way guard.
Mm-hmm. See, I thought the same thing, at least Pelican-wise. I don't think they're getting rid of Drew just because he's locked up already. They have Zion on that stuff.
But yeah.
The guy that I immediately thought to was J.J. Redick. Yes, he can't play defense, but he can provide that three-point shot for you.
And J.J. has to go to the playoffs.
Pretty much half. And
that's the rule.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about, was that he's got to make the playoffs, so they're going to do a mid-season deadline deal that's going to push him over. And plus, he's making like $13 million, which is like half of what Beal's making. So I think it would just be funny that it could definitely affect those type of guys like Drew Holiday. Ricky, I know you were on the big Bradley Beal must be traded train right now, all this crap, and then we told you that he couldn't be traded, and you're like, crap.
After looking at it, and I know this isn't the side of how it affects the NBA, because to me, this whole deal, how it affects the NBA does not intrigue me. Like, it's not the interesting part of this discussion. The most interesting part of this discussion for me is we've always had talks about how, well, you got to move Bradley Beal because nobody wants John Wall's contract. This is basically the Wizards saying, you know what, fuck it, we're going to double down. It works for Bradley Beal because when he comes out of I think it was if he opts out and becomes a free agent in 2022, then he can get the most money out of that free agent class. But also, even if he stays, this now lines up John Wall and Bradley Beal's contracts to come off the books at the same time. So it's kind of like the Wizards saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we weren't going to trade him at all this season anyways. We were just going to run the team out there like we have it. And we weren't going to get an offer for John Wall because who wants that contract? So let's just give Beal the extension. It works for him, and it doubled down for us to where if Beal leaves at the end, we only have John Wall for maybe a year if Beal doesn't take the player op. We have John Wall for a year, and then that's where the rebuild truly takes its turn.
And to just jump on that, by declining the option in the summer of 2022, Beal will be eligible for free agency with 10 years of NBA service time, allowing him to either sign a record-setting 5-year, $266 million contract with Washington or a 4-year, $198 deal with another team. So just to add the numbers to that, because it would be crazy having
disgusting.
Him sign
like, I literally got full body
$266 million
goosebumps when you said that number. I was like, what?
But
that's not even
that's over $250 million. But insane.
But here's the thing: I just want to put a feather in the hat for that.
Yeah.
Part of the discussion, we were talking about this on Saturday when we did the Superfans podcast. What is the range for? Remind me again. What's the range for an NBA player in their prime? Because I know the beginning of it. I don't know what you would count the end of it.
Debating. I've always been. I think the whole idea is that it's 26 to 31.
Yep.
Okay.
But we were saying that it's probably starting sooner than that because I don't know when that started, but I've pretty much always heard that that's when the prime of your life is that 26 to 31 number.
Yikes.
But you look at all of these. Yeah, you're almost out of it. I think that it's got to be changing though, because you look at some of these players like Luka Doncic coming in and being phenomenal immediately at 19. You look at Zion Williamson; he could, if he was healthy, he could probably dominate the league as well. Jason Tatum's first year as a rookie as well. Joel Embiid, I don't think he's currently in his prime as well.
Nikola Jokic just won MVP. Giannis, and he's 24.
Yeah, he was the catalyst of that. Giannis was just won MVP at 24. He's pretty much in his prime as well. And yes, these are guys that are freak of natures, but I think we're seeing more freaks of nature come about now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And one of the biggest contributing factors to that is the way that people are being medically conditioned for the sport at an earlier age.
How they just train in general and diet now.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's such a thing as dieting. There's such a thing as not going in at halftime and smoking a cigar. Like, you're not drinking beer, in between games. I
can't smoke 10 packs a day before I play basketball?
You know what? You may, but you may have some trouble with that conditioning. I mean, that's the biggest thing is players take such, it's a multitude times better care of their bodies than they did in the 90s, 80s, 70s. All of those players were great, but athletically, they don't even come close, with the exception of a couple, to where modern stars are. And I think that's the biggest thing is players are so much more athletically ready at a younger age than they've ever been before. So I do agree that primes are starting earlier and earlier. I still question the end, Ricky, where you're kind of hitting that, is 31 the end of the prime?
Because when he comes out on the deal, he'll be 29.
Oh, so he's perfect. Who wouldn't give him $260 million?
That's
the only team that would have to debate
Wizards.
That is the Wizards.
They would have to.
If you're thinking, it kind of makes me think two things. One, when he comes out, if Sean's, like Sean said, around 31, that means, 2 years? And it's like, okay, he's starting to get out of his prime. I know that people are going to bring out, look at like a guy like LeBron, where he's still, how old he is right now. And he just got a major injury that took him out most of last season, which we've never seen that before.
If they were competing,
from
he would have
LeBron.
hustled back.
Exactly. But the other thing is, with the contract, is this kind of Bradley Beal? Are we going to look back on this and say, man, Bradley Beal wasted his prime by signing that extension with the Wizards, man?
That's a question.
Is that the storyline that's going to be like when Bradley Beal's career is done and over with? It's like, man, he should have never signed that extension. He wasted his prime.
Well, with that, I mean, does wasting your prime mean you're not winning a title?
Yeah, well, you're not making the playoffs either. Like,
What?
I don't know.
Think John Wall, Bradley Beal can't make it back to the playoffs in the East?
John Wall will come back and get injured.
What's to say that?
Like
Dr. Ricky.
His history.
Dr. Ricky, you're right.
It's his history.
Why question Ricky MD?
How many times has John Wall been injured? And I know that that's a very harsh answer to say. If both of them are out there healthy,
You're talking about the
this
guy
is a
who,
playoff
during our
team.
fantasy draft, was defending Chris Paul.
Yeah. Because
So,
Chris Paul
you
still
can't-
goes back to the playoffs.
You can't ask that.
Steph Curry gets hurt every
He's the
freaking
one,
year.
he's the one arguing with
No, but
you.
I'm just saying you can't bring up the history determines that, because Dave will come back and say that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
history
it
doesn't matter with these players. So I mean, if we expect that John Wall's got to come back healthy, we have to assume that all of his nagging injuries that kept him out for 41 games in 2017, 2018, the major injury that kept him out for 2018, 2019, and now this season as well, the injury that kept him out in his rookie year and his sophomore year as well. Or I think the sophomore year was the shortened year.
The
it
shortened
was
season.
2012. He also was held out. Only played 49 games. So I mean, he's been missing. I think five. He's missed under 70 games in 5 of his career seasons. And then obviously not even counting this year. So having him come back at 30 off a major injury is definitely going to be something of concern. I don't have to disagree with you there. Maybe he doesn't get injured again, but it's going to be difficult for him to stay fully healthy. I think.
I question it, and it's like, of course, if both of them are out there healthy, we've seen them make the playoffs. We've seen them in a playoff series. It's just, if John Wall is the one that's injured and he's not out there consistently, I don't have the faith in this Wizards brass to put a good enough team around Bradley Beal to be a playoff team.
Well,
a
3 years
consistent
is
playoff
3
team.
years is your window. You think John Wall will not be healthy in the next 3 years?
I mean, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he's healthy for a whole season, but I'm not putting my money on it. Like, if you asked me to go to
I'm
Vegas,
not saying he's going to play 82 games.
bet
I'm
the
saying,
house on it.
Will you think in the next 3 years this team will not have a healthy John Wall there enough to make the playoffs?
If you
Because
ask,
I feel like there is almost I would put down money today, say there's 100% chance that John Wall and I don't even want to say John Wall and Bradley Beal, but the Wizards would be able to make the playoffs in the next 3 years. I'd be like, yeah, there's a chance.
one time out of those seasons, yeah, sure, one time. But to me, I feel like in the next 3 years, John Wall will have another injury.
Sleeping
It's
on his own boy Rui Hachimura from carrying the Wizards.
I mean, Rui's got he's got to grow.
You got Rui. You got
I love
Rui's
Rui. I love Rui, but he's not a finished product.
Here's what I'll say is you said that you're not sure if you can trust the Wizards brass to put a team around them. They did make the move to get rid of Ernie Grunfeld, so he is no longer calling the shots. They did have the failure of trying to sway Masai Ujiri away from the Raptors to have them be, I think, their basketball their president of basketball operations. Same with trying to sway Tim Connolly away from the Denver Nuggets to become their president of basketball operations as well. Currently running the show now is Tommy Shepard, who worked for the Wizards for 16 years, along with Grunfeld. So they were hand in hand. So it wasn't like he was, away from the Ernie Grunfeld idea, but maybe getting a new voice in there will be able to change some minds. And maybe this also isn't a finished deal where maybe Tommy Shepard is still just going along and maybe he's just going to finish out this year. We already know this year is pretty much just a throwaway year anyways for the Wizards. We know that outside of the Beal thing, there isn't really anything super pressing about this team. Now you lock down Beal. You already have John Wall down. Maybe you
re-signed Thomas Bryant.
You re-signed Thomas Bryant as well. Now maybe after this year, if you do want to go after another play of maybe Tim Connolly or Masai Ujiri or another name out there to run your ship, you then give them a team that has John Wall locked down. You give them a team that has Bradley Beal locked down, Thomas Bryant locked down. You just drafted Rui Hachimura. You still have Troy Brown Jr. as well. You still have your first-round pick as well. So maybe you give them that load of assets that are currently on your team, and that first-round draft pick as well, and you bring in a new name as well. I don't know if I can totally write this team off, right now as not being a playoff team, because Bradley Beal, I think, now becomes your number one, and it used to be John Wall, and I think John Wall as a 2, taking probably a load management situation where he's not going to play a ton.
He shoots less threes.
Huh?
Praying to God he shoots less threes out there.
Yeah,
he had an awful shot selection.
But even then, I mean, like, you look at the 3 years that he was healthy, or the 3 years before last year, he was shooting around 34%, which is fine.
That was right around league average at the time.
And as a second option, I think that could be something that can work out. We already know that they're 2 alphas, but they've been able to coexist. And we know that Bradley Beal wants to die in a Wizards uniform. He said that as well. I think that the Wizards aren't in a bad spot right now, and I think it's just massively intriguing to wonder why he did make this deal. And maybe it's just a reason that he does want to stay with the Wizards for a very long time. And this is going to set him up to be a very wealthy man and make $266 million once he's out of this contract. And that would be absolutely awesome for Bradley Beal. I just wonder, again, what his motivation was, and I don't think we will ever actually know what it is, and maybe it is strictly money. Maybe he realizes that this whole NBA thing, it's not really determined on if you win a finals or not, because yes, that's what everyone wants, right? But does it matter in the end? Because you're getting your bag. You're going to be retiring with over $300 million in contract earnings. That is
plus
a damn
plus your endorsements, shoe deals,
that is a
merch.
Damn successful career, if you ask me. I don't give a shit if you don't win a finals or not. And maybe Bradley Beal really likes Washington. Maybe he likes having the ball, which he's going to have for now probably the next 7 years or whatever. He is going to be a guy that I think is going to be in a place that maybe they make the playoffs, maybe he can compete, maybe he thinks that if he's out there on the floor, he's going to give his team a significant advantage. I think it's an intriguing move. I don't know exactly why it was made. Maybe he does have faith in the Wizards brass to make deals to put them in a contending situation. But I just find it intriguing because I really don't know why he did take this deal and why he did extend it right now.
For Bradley Beal, I'm going to put my mind. I know you say we don't know because we don't know Bradley Beal, but I'm going to put myself in the mind of Bradley Beal.
He would ask you to take yourself out of his mind.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was like you said, hey, I want to die in a Wizards uniform. Like that is, I am a Wizard through and through. And also on the side of it, oh, by the way, if I do this, I am going to get my cheddar. When I do, if I opt out, I can still stay with the Wizards and get a butt ton. Like that Brinks truck that Jalen Ramsey wanted in the NFL, well, Bradley Beal will get that at the end of this contract. Here's the question that popped into my mind, though. And I know he can't get traded this year, but just the question of, does Bradley Beal end this contract in a Wizards jersey? Like Dave brought up, and we'll get into it later with Domantas Sabonis. You mentioned before we were even recording the podcast something about where does this make his extension make him more favorable in the trade market? Does this also make Bradley Beal where it's like, hey, after this year, draft night, hey, you can trade for Bradley Beal, and you got him locked down during his prime.
And you have the option to give him a shit ton of money going forward.
Exactly.
I want to say that would be interesting because earlier when you mentioned the wasting his prime in Washington, I was like, I mean, there's no guarantee he stays in Washington. Like that is the day that we're at in the NBA where players, if they want to be somewhere else, they can get somewhere else.
So you think this was a move then to possibly secure that? Obviously, the $72 million for the next the 2 years after this contract runs out, and then possibly put himself in that situation to get the $266 million.
Yeah,
do you think it's a strictly financial move?
I think that was the end goal from this move. Yeah, I honestly do. There's
it helps the Wizards out too because now they don't have to worry about him walking at the end of the current contract and getting nothing for him.
Yeah, but then he's still going to be valuable after this year because he still has that 1 year left. Yeah, so you could but I'm just saying, that him walking away for nothing still was 2 years away. So I don't right now was the time to sign the extension because you're not going to be able to sign it next year. But I just wonder, at least with Beal, because this team's not going to be a championship contender by the end of this extension. They could be in the playoffs for sure, but I don't see a way that they're going to put themselves into championship contention unless we see the NBA drastically change. Because yes, Kawhi will still be around. We don't know if he's going to be in LA. We know that Paul George is still going to be around. We don't know if he's going to be in LA. We know James Harden's still going to be around. We don't know where. At that point, I think he's going to be locked up probably in Houston still. But for
$50 million.
And we and AD's probably still going to be in LA as well as a Laker.
Maybe.
So I mean, we can see
Kevin Durant maybe playing basketball still.
I forgot about him. He'll. I think by that time he'll probably be at the end of his deal. He was a guy too that he is from that DC area.
If he still wants to play,
But he's from that DC area, and that whole talk about when he came up, maybe he's. I'm just saying like it's. I find it odd because I thought if you wanted to be moved, now is your time to be moved because you are going to be under control for less at $27 million, which is a prime place to move you.
Yeah,
that's going to be a perfect spot for the Wizards to move you. Yep. If you move you with 2 years left in your deal, that's going to increase their trade value and their wantingness to trade you because that way you're putting them in a situation where, hey, you don't have guys that are this cheap, that are this special, and another year of control.
It mirrors the Paul George situation.
Yes.
Does it not? I mean, they should be able to get a package in the same vein had he not gone for this extension.
And that's why I find it just odd because, it doesn't rule out that he cannot be moved.
Correct.
But why now? Why right before the end of the deadline? Because we were talking about this. We already had a topic about this 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why now? And then also, if it is a move to then get yourself moved later on, you're still putting yourself in a situation to get that money for sure, but then you're also putting that team in a handicapped spot as well. So now if you're like, hey, fuck it, I don't care if I'm going to put the Wizards in a handicapped spot, taking $266 million because I want to be here.
Absolutely.
That doesn't matter. If they want to give me that money, then I'll take that money from them. I just find it weird that now you're putting in the question marks of you can't be traded this year, which is kind of pretty much a waste year. What are who are you showing off to? Because the Wizards already give you money to. The only reason why you would, for this year now is just to, personal accolades because you're not going to the playoffs. This team isn't good enough to go to the playoffs. Yep. So now you're probably putting yourself in a situation to, get all pro, all NBA.
Totally capable.
All that stuff. Like, what are you gaining from signing this extension outside of the financial thing? And I think that's all it is. I think all of this is just a financial
It's a win-win,
play.
though. I mean, if best case scenario, John Wall comes back, he's fully healthy at the end of this year, start of next year, you just roll out that team. You'll have a pretty high draft pick. I don't think any of us had Washington going to the playoffs this year, so you'll be in the lottery. You have a chance of a really nice draft pick in this draft class, which looks real good before the season starts. Officially, I'm going to just toss that out there. There's a lot of interesting, talented players. So they get to add another piece. They've got, like you said, three young pieces between Troy Brown, Rui, and Thomas Bryant building in the ranks. So it's not out of the conversation to say this year is just let Bradley Beal do whatever he wants to do. Let the young kids build up their talent. See if Troy Brown is anything. We saw a lot of him staying on the bench for the majority of last season. So, like, if that little glimpse of playtime at the end of the year is what's more to come, great. Let's find out. This is the year to find out who those guys are. I would almost pull a page out of the Nets book and be like, let's see what the G League has in stock. Let's see if anybody's leftover stuff now that everybody's made their cuts down to their final rosters. Like, who are some pieces out there who we can give playing time to because our year isn't about winning this year. Our year is about finding the core to put around Bradley Beal, John Wall, and Thomas Bryant.
I got a trade. Not this year. Right. Future trade. Let's say, here's how the timeline works.
You're going to like this, Sean.
They go Wizards this year.
I want to point this out to you and to the people listening.
It's a roadmap. I'm going to take you on this journey.
If this is bad, like if this is nonsensical, we are ending the segment.
I don't think it's nonsensical. I think there's sense to this.
I'm pointing it out.
Okay. So this year we all know.
I'm not getting a good look from Dave.
Well, I'm looking at the team. It depends what he says because there's a 100% chance this could happen.
Bradley Beal this year plays out with the Wizards. They get a high draft pick. Take whoever they want.
For sure.
Next year, it's a complete John Wall's back healthy. Let's see what we got. And depending how it goes, I am going to lean on the side of I don't think it's going to go well. I wouldn't be surprised if John Wall gets injured again. Mm-hmm. If it goes badly, if I'm the Wizards, I look in that, and this is where the extension would start. All right, let me go to trade Bradley Beal. There's a team in the West that, and I know the landscape may change a little bit in 2 years. Kawhi may not be with the Clippers no more. We don't know what the Laker team is going to look like in 2 years or who's going to move where. But I look at the Nuggets, and they're a team that right now the thing we talk about is they've got guys who are good. They got Jokic, who's their star. They got Jamal Murray, who's really good. They've got a ton of depth. But whenever we talk about them as a playoff, it's like the big thing we talk about is as a playoff team.
As one playoff.
As a playoff.
They don't have
like
experience.
Playoff, baby.
They don't have the experience. I wouldn't be surprised if this would be the 2021 season. We see a trade where Bradley Beal gets sent to the Nuggets. The Nuggets would give up Gary Harris and Will Barton if Will Barton opts into that last year, because both of those guys would be free agents. Wizards could cut them at the end of the year and not even worry about them. And then the Nuggets would just give the Wizards draft pick. So the Wizards would get Gary Harris and Will Barton, who they can see if they like them. If not, Beal is off the books completely.
Yeah.
Draft picks. And then the Nuggets could get a guy who could be like, Jokic is a star, but like Bradley Beal would shake up that team and could probably wow, we look at the Nuggets differently.
The thing with that, and I think that throws a wrench into it, it's so far away from that even being a possibility. And you talk about the Nuggets team not having experience, but at that point, they'll have last year's playoffs, this year's playoffs, next year's playoffs, and then I think that would be 3 years of playoff experience. Right now, Bradley Beal has 4 years. So it's not like it's going to be drastically different. And it's not that they're inexperienced, just that it's a very young team. Jokic, I think, is under 25 years old. Murray's under 23 years old. Gary Harris, I think, is 26 years old, maybe. There's a lot of young players on this team. The only old players is Paul Millsap. And I think that what you're looking at is Millsap's contract's going to be up. That's going to free up $30 million from them. Torrey Craig's contract's going to be up. They didn't reach a deal with Malik Beasley, so he's likely going to be a guy that moves.
Yep.
So then you're looking at pretty much that $30 million going to Jamal Murray next year. And that way they'll have Murray for 29.2, Gary Harris, Jeremy Grant if he opts into that player option, which I think is going to be likely for 9.3. But then they're banking on Michael Porter Jr. taking that next step next year when Michael Porter leaves and possibly Jeremy Grant leaves. And at that point, you then question, if Michael Porter fits into that situation, would you rather have the ability to have this absolute freak of a player in Michael Porter Jr., who's 6'11", that, yes, he has his own injury issues, just like Bradley Beal had injury issues at the start of his career. But would you rather then put your faith in the scouting department that has gotten you guys like Malik Beasley, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Torrey Craig before, and just keep those young guard rotation like Jamal Murray and Gary Harris, and then you have these two freaks in Nikola Jokic and Michael Porter Jr., and you put all of your assets into that? We don't know where this team's going to be, this Nugget team's going to be at that point, and I think that's why you really can't say that that's going to be a deal that is feasible right now, because right now I think the only time that you can even possibly look at deals being made are in the actual season that it's happening, because you know where these teams are going to be at what peak. Because what if one of these players get injured? What if Bradley Beal gets injured? That's why I think there's too many ifs about all of this.
And
because
2 years out,
and this is where I love standing on the ledge. I'm going to say the biggest thing to it that, like, if you ask me, am I hanging my hat on Michael Porter Jr. and Nikola Jokic? Right now, I'm going to say no.
What do you mean?
The thing that I look at with this team...
Hold on, no, stop. What do you mean?
The current, like...
Well, no, you said you wouldn't hang your hat on Nikola Jokic.
I'm not expecting... The team that's currently constructed with the Nuggets in 2 years, I don't think they're developing into a championship team to where I think they're going to need... And I'm going to pull out a word...
Why is that?
That Bradley Beal... I'm going to tell you. Okay, you fucking listen.
He's storytelling.
It's bad.
I take you on the journey with me. Bradley Beal, John Wall, they've both said it. The Wizards are going to need an alpha. They're going to need a guy because Jamal Murray, I look at him as a knockdown shooter. If Bradley Beal comes in, Bradley Beal can be your ball handler. He can get the ball to Jokic. Jokic can handle the ball too, but he's not going to be your point guard out there. Bradley Beal can be the ball dominant guy. Get the ball to your shooter in Murray. Get the ball to Jokic. Get the ball to Michael Porter and be the guy this team, the superstar that this team could revolve around. That's a trade that I could see in 2 years. Wizards and Nuggets locking up.
Jokic is already a superstar. 2, that Nugget offense doesn't need a ball handler.
It's
because
predicated around having Nikola Jokic.
Everybody has the ability to pass and move the ball around, and the whole idea is that it's in screens and in constant movement. Would Bradley Beal fit into that offense? 100%. I mean, he's a guy that can shoot. He's a guy that can move the ball. He's a guy that's very athletic, so he can fit into that offense. But he would have to fit into the offense and not be a guy that can be a main ball handler. And I think they're even looking at Jamal Murray might be a guy that can develop into that. That's why they paid him a max of 5 years, 170, and he's been a guy first year 2.1 assists, 3.4 assists, 4.8 assists, and that's a part of the system as well. Is to when you are increasing your minutes from going from 21 to 31 to 32 and increasing your possessions, that you are going to pass the ball more, and that the whole system is about getting people open. You're going to just increase your assist numbers naturally, but I just don't think that we're close enough to that season to fully understand where this team is. And I think calling Nikola Jokic not a superstar is extremely wrong. I mean, he's a top 10 player right now in the NBA. That guy can be a 1. Just look at how dominant he was in the playoffs last year. Where that team struggled last year in the playoffs was the fact that they didn't have the other guys step up. And maybe you see in those next 2 seasons that Jamal Murray, who's right now only 22 years old, can further his game in the playoffs. That Gary Harris, once he's fully healthy, can further his game and help you out. And Michael Porter Jr., who's going to add that next aspect, he seems to be a guy that is an alpha in some ways. If you need a guy to take a shot, he is not afraid of that moment. We saw that when he was injured in college and came right back and took 19 shots when he was hurt. So I don't think we can say that Bradley Beal is going to be moved. I don't think we can say that Bradley Beal is going to be a Wizard for the rest of his life. I don't say that we can't say that he won't be a Wizard for the rest of his life. This extension put a wrench in the whole Bradley Beal is going to be moved at some point, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out because, again, that is a roadmap. That is something that could happen, but what if LeBron gets injured and that takes down the Lakers, and then you only have to worry about the Clippers? Well, those are 2 teams with great depth, and yes, you have Kawhi and Paul George, who are very great players on their own, but you don't have a player that can guard Nikola Jokic down low. So that is a playoff matchup that the Nuggets can win, especially having another year of playoff experience underneath their belt. So a ton of things could happen. That's just one thing that LeBron gets injured.
It's kind of rough.
Comes down to next year.
Forecasting that far out is rough. I mean, if you look back, today is actually a great day for it because somebody on the subreddit for NBA dropped a looking, back at 5 years from now posts. The 5 years from now posts are hilarious because, the people who got downvoted to oblivion being like, Derrick Rose is going to be coming off the bench for teams, all these ridiculous, these are the top 5 players in their position. And he's like, bench. And people just roast him. He's, minus whatever. Mm-hmm. You look at today, it's like, well, he's 100% right. Nobody knew nobody answered with any assurance of how is it going to happen. But shit like this happens. 5 years from now, the gamescape is totally different. So I think trying to guess 2+ years out is even still pretty difficult.
Well, and it still comes down to what you said, your optimism. If John Wall comes back,
they're a playoff team,
and he doesn't get hurt, then why would the Wizards trade Bradley Beal? It depends on what happens next year.
On top of Rui Hachimura, on top of Thomas Bryant, on top of one of the best backcourts in the NBA. Mm-hmm. There's no excuse for that team not to be a playoff team.
And the thing, too, is you have 2 prospects already on this team that have the upside to become, they have skill sets that are very intriguing. I won't say that they have the possibility of being elite, but Rui Hachimura has a skill set that is intriguing, and if he is able to develop, especially with a year that he's going to get a ton of usage, or should at least, that could help his development. Same with Troy Brown Jr. If he gets time and minutes, that could help his development, and we could possibly see them have an elite wing if they are able to hit those marks. And if not, you still have the ability to draft someone again this year that could turn into that, and that way you have 3 elite players. Because let's not act like John Wall isn't an elite player. Yeah. I mean, he's been averaging
a monster, 20 and 10
since he was 19. So I think it'd be. I think that it's too far out, like we were saying.
Final note: you guys just massively disrespecting Bol. Not even a single mention during the Nuggets trade talks and who's going to carry them through the future. But it's Bol.
Here's, and I know you're half
we
joking.
Saw him in person.
I'm 1110% joking.
We saw him in person.
I got to see him in person, and there's nothing more impressive than someone who is that tall and that lanky.
The thing that's concerning with him is you hear all these stories come out about Michael Porter Jr. And there's a story today in the Denver Post, I believe, by let me get the author's name, Mike Singer, that Michael Porter Jr. was like super annoyed over his role in the final Nuggets preseason game, and that he texted Mike Malone to figure out things, and now they're in a great spot.
Yeah.
And he details all of this stuff, and he has to earn playing time, and that comes with it. And there's stuff about how good he looks, but there's nothing about Bol coming out.
He was medically redshirted basically.
Yeah, but
for this whole year, all he's doing is strength and conditioning. It's still, similar to Harry Giles.
He's still in the building, Yeah. And we still saw stuff come out about Harry Giles and all that stuff. So it's a little concerning to me.
I'm not concerned at all.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this segment. Let us know what you think this means for Bradley Beal and the Wizards. I think that to final point this,
it's a win for Bradley Beal. No matter what. If the Wizards come back healthy with John Wall, Bradley Beal, top picks, great deal. They can move forward as a playoff team and see what their top end truly is. If not, you got options.
Yeah, it's a win for Bradley Beal, and they could definitely build into a playoff team with Beal, Wall, and whoever is on this team, without a doubt. But it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because he could be a Wizard for the next 4 years, and then come 2022, 2023, there is a big free agent on the market. Ricky, final thoughts?
No, for me, it's a win-win for Bradley Beal. Like you said, gets paid or gets to win with the Wizards. I am still on the Bradley Beal gets traded before this contract is over, and let's wait until after next season for that to happen.
Dave, I think you pretty much already gave your final thoughts.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Where does this put the Wizards? Where does this put Bradley Beal? And what do you think this will have effect-wise on the NBA? Let us know down in the comments below. But let's move into the next topic, and that is Zion Williamson. Zion is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a meniscus tear. Pretty much the Pelicans came out and say they don't know how this happened or when it exactly happened, but David Griffin does know one thing, and asserting that it's about Zion Williams' body type is asinine. So let's talk about that. Zion Williamson going to be injured. We'll talk about how it affects the Pelicans, obviously how it's affecting Zion Williamson's rookie season, and then in the grand scheme of things, what effect will this have for the NBA? Let's start off with the closer stuff to home, at least for the New Orleans fans and Zion himself. How is this going to affect the Pelicans this year with not having their number one draft pick out on the floor?
I think the biggest question mark for this team now is you get to evaluate what BI can do as a number one option, which is actually super intriguing because this is a guy who came off of a season-ending injury last year that was pretty scary. But prior to that, he was playing the best basketball of his career, being able to run the Lakers offense without LeBron James. So this is a guy who has not been signed to an extension. He was one of the few guys from that class who was not. Mm-hmm. So after this year, basically, it's like, all right, well, we'll see where he's at cost-wise. I don't know if he's going to be a max-worthy player or what, but the point is, you can see BI be the guy on a team for a while, uncontested to Zion. I don't know. The biggest question I think for a lot of us was, how are those two guys going to work together? Like, this lineup sort of had a couple, they're all interesting pieces, but how are they going to fit together? So my big deal, run it with BI, see where this team's going to go, because I'm not super worried about Zion's health long term. Like David Griffin said, he's physically an imposing player. He's interesting. He's not a normal build. He's not a normal human being when you have that much muscle mass in that short of a space and that size. So
I mean, he needs his own specially built shoes.
He does.
Normal shoes. His foot just rips out of him.
Yeah. So I mean,
it was a one-time thing. Come on.
It was pretty cool though.
It was cool. It was very.
It's like Superman. He needs special shoes.
Relax,
because he'll rip through the shoe.
He's a normal person.
No, he's Xanos Williamson.
Oh my
Jesus
God,
Christ!
That nickname's awesome.
He's inevitable.
I just think that with this injury, I think it's obviously just going to ramp up the whole thing that he is too fat. I don't know.
There's no way around that.
Anything about medical stuff. I mean, I am the furthest thing from a doctor, I think. I don't know. Maybe you can get further away, but I think I'm if you're saying people who are furthest away from having a medical degree, I think I am it. So I can't say that he is too fat. I don't know what it's like to be in his body. Maybe he's not in pain every single day. Maybe he feels normal and this was just a random freak injury. What I do know is that he is an absolute freak, and he showed that in preseason. And you look at what he was doing, and around the rim, he was still dominating like he was in college. And I think the biggest thing that for me, I think is probably the most worrying thing is that the Rookie of the Year might be in jeopardy for him, because he still might be the Rookie of the Year. He might still be the most impressive rookie at least, but maybe he doesn't get enough games because of this injury. And maybe that does affect his playing time as well, because then they're going to be worried because, hey, if this team isn't even close to the playoffs, maybe we shut him down too early. So I think the biggest thing that I'd be worried about is this might affect his actual playing time and how much he can go out on the floor night in and night out. And I think for selfish reasons and also for Zion himself, I think he wants to be out there. So I think it's just a bummer that this is how we're starting his season, because we don't know how the Pelicans will look. They might win their first game and they might be fine because they still do have a lot of veterans on their team like Drew Holiday, JJ Redick, Derek Favors again because I love him. And maybe they can find some diamonds in the rough there with Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball. But when he comes back, then he's going to have to get reused to the NBA schedule. He's going to have to get reused to the NBA speed. He's actually going to have to start playing in games as well. So it might be a tough slide for the Pelicans just because they're going to have to work this very key piece in the middle of the season, right when this team pretty much probably through the first 6 and 8 weeks already worked through their rough spots and patches as a team gelling. So I think there are some worrying parts about this injury, especially since it happened right at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, only because, if he's going to get it fixed, he's going to sit out. The only reason why we're talking about it right now is because of the hype that's around Zion Williamson.
He was the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah,
he came in with a body that a lot of people were already saying, like, look at the way he flies. Look at the way he lands. Does he not remind you of some of the most explosive athletes in the NBA? And we all know what happened to one of them, our local boy, Derrick Rose. Like, when you land and you're not able to land well, the angles aren't always going to be right. But, like, if you're not doing everything to protect yourself from that, then there's a potential for injury. Otherwise, you go to the other side and you go to Brody, who is a machine and who refuses to take games off because whatever, he's just an athletic hype beast. So like you've got both ends of that kind of on the scale. It's just with Zion's weight on top of it, you tend to think there's got to be more stress on his body. From a non-medical standpoint, I'm literally just winging that. But
yeah, I'm just not worried about it.
Physics-wise, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Big guy, worrisome.
I'm just
Where
not
do you
worried.
think he lands on that kind of scale, though? Like, are you more worried about like his landing and his ability to re-injure a meniscus, or do you think that this is like a small little whatever, and going forward in his career, it's just gonna be a blip?
I'm going to lean... Obviously, you can't predict the future. That's what we learned in the first segment.
That's what we tried to.
But I'm going to go more with the second one. I think this is just something where in college, Zion could live a certain way. And now in the NBA, it's like, oh, shit. Like, I got to actually start thinking about this because it's bigger. The dudes are bigger, faster, stronger in the NBA.
What do you mean by that?
We're like a guy with the talent that Xanos had, I'm going to still call him that, he can walk into college and dominate anybody. But now that he's in the NBA, dudes are bigger, faster, stronger, to where I got to take care of my body a little bit better than maybe I did in college.
So far from what we saw from preseason, he was still dominant against NBA players. I know it's preseason, but still, it wasn't like he was slowed down or looked like he was shut down at any
banging
points.
on Luke Cornett and Cristiano Felicio. He looked great.
I understand that, Dave, 100%. He wasn't going up against Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But still, these are guys that made it to the NBA. These are guys that are better than college players. If Luke Cornett walked into the NBA, he would probably be able to average 15 points a game.
Into the NCAA.
NCAA. If he walked in right now, he'd probably be able to average 15 points a game. Like, these guys are in the NBA because they were either the best players in college.
Matchups, like Derek Favors versus him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he was going, it wasn't like he was going up against Anthony Davis. Yeah. We don't know what he's going to do against bigger, better, faster, stronger players.
Yep.
But even what he was doing against the lower tier guys, he was still dominant. I think in 2 games, it was the Jazz and the Bulls games, he missed 2 shots and took like 28 of them. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest concern is how would he do over 82 rather than in-game situations and just like, singular game situations, because, maybe his first game back, he looks absolutely fine. But by game 50, that's where we start to see him slow down. So, and I think the thing too that I don't want to leave out of the conversation is he's been this way pretty much his entire career. We've seen Zion at this size even in high school. So this isn't something new to him. So I think he's used to this as his body, but he hasn't had this work schedule. And now we're seeing the stuff about sleep deprivation being a huge problem in the NBA. So I think for Zion, it's just going to be maintaining his body and making sure that it doesn't get worse, and it doesn't exasperate the situation because with sleep deprivation, that just means you're eating worse. You're having worse habits. You're not able to get your body into proper modes where you're kicking up your metabolism into the right way. That stuff I do know. That's the furthest to my medical degree.
And that's a good point though, because the thing, and I know that Sean, you and I know this because we called basketball games for like our college basketball. Once you hit the conference schedule, it's very much like I have a game on Wednesday, I have a game on Saturday, I have a game on Wednesday, I have a game on Saturday. That's like some of them are like that, or it's like, okay, I have Tuesday and then Friday and then Saturday, where it's like there's not any back-to-backs. Where in the NBA, you're going to get back-to-backs. You don't have as many, but you will get that rather than like
as well.
Exactly. The travel is further.
But then with that, you don't have to go to school every single day, so that's less time that's going out.
But you got to work out every day.
But you do have to work out every day, but you don't have practice every single day. So that, and where in college you pretty much do have practice every single day. So there's things to gain and things to lose without a doubt. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's just going to have to be something that he has to adjust to.
Well, I mean, you're going to classes unless you go to North Carolina. Then you don't have to go to classes.
So there you go.
No, I know.
And plus, in the NBA, a couple teams do practice every day. Have you seen Jim Boylan?
Jim Boylan.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know, but people want us to be right. Jim Boylan's going away from that. Jim Boylan's not having them practice every single day.
He learned when they revolted.
They played on Sunday. They had a preseason game on Sunday. They were off yesterday. So, I mean, they're taking time. So Otto Porter's going to play 30 minutes this year a season. He's going to have, I think, only a game. And only 30 minutes
the whole year.
Concerning me there.
Over 60 games. But with this, I'm not too worried about the long term of Zion, and I think that's the part that I want to get to is, are you worried about Zion long term? Because I'm not. I think that I don't know what his body is feeling like. I don't know how he injured this, and I think there's a ton unquestioned to be like, all right, well, he's immediately going to be a bust before we even see him play. Because if he is this extraordinary player, then maybe the Pelicans put him in the right situations to where he's not overextending his body and overutilizing his body, that he does get rest to make sure that his body does heal up every single day, because we see this all the time now in the NBA. He is coming into a great situation, a great era to be in, an era that is making sure that players are fully themselves every night in and out. Yep. And if you're not, you're just not going to play. So I think that Zion is in a very good situation, at least for the era that he's in. He's not in a good situation because he obviously is injured right now, but I think if he's able to realize that, if he gets re-injured this year, then maybe he starts reassessing where he is. But let's let him play a full entire season before we say, this kid's going to be a bust. Oh, here we go. We knew this was going to happen. We didn't, because if he wasn't injured, we'd be like, wow, let's marvel in this great player. Like, shit happens pretty much. This is the NBA. Injuries happen all the time. We see guys that get injured, consistently on a year-to-year basis, Chris Paul, or, guys who get injured early in their career like Bradley Beal, but then are fine throughout the latter half of their season, their career. So maybe this is just something that he's just still growing into his body.
No, and I want to be that guy and just toss out the question, because I'd feel bad if we didn't. Is this a case where you go overly cautious if Zion isn't feeling it when those 6 to 8 weeks are up? Is it one of those scenarios where you would keep Zion out for this first season? Is it I know Julius Randle and Blake Griffin had different injuries, but both of those guys, I think Julius was 2 minutes into his first game and Blake was prior to playing in the season. Both had
Ben Simmons with the broken foot.
It's are you going to protect this player? Because Blake has been healthy-ish, I think is the only way I can call it. Healthy-ish. He's a big guy, he flies, but he's changed his game dramatically to prolong his career, and I think that's awesome. Julius Randle never really, I think he's working on stretching out his game, but I don't think the injury really impacted him very much because he wasn't an uber athlete to begin with. He was athletic enough, but because of his body type, it was never like a real big problem for him. Yeah. Do you think this could turn into a scenario where Zion is kept on the bench for his entire rookie season?
I'm going to say no. And the only, part of me is saying no because I don't want to see that. But
yeah, no, I definitely don't. But
the thing that I feel like is the only way I do that is if, let's say, he comes back.
Yeah.
And the first question you got to ask is, let's say he comes back and doctors and everything say, well, you know what? He's only 80% there. Do you keep him out until he's automatically 100%? Or do you, like, if Zion says, hey, I want to try it on 80, 85, 95, or 90%, and at that point, if he ain't feeling it and he's not 100%, then yeah, I shut him down until he's 100%. But, like, there's a part of me that's like, if he's 100%, let him go out there and play, because, I mean, it also depends on what we see from this Pelicans team. Like, Dave's got the game on right now, and they're going up against the
opening night. Yeah, you can't not watch.
Well, we're NBA podcast. We expect that we're going to be watching. But they're going up against the defending NBA champions, and right now, as we're recording this, it's a 25-22 game, and they don't even have Zion out there. So it's like, what if the Pelicans are shocking, and they're in a race for an 8th seed? Does that rush Zion? Or it's like, we got to have Zion in there because that's only going to help us.
I don't think they're going to rush him back, because what would you rather have, a Zion that's not 100? No, but just to play your point, like, even if they are competitive, I don't think they're going to rush him back. That's the question you're asking, right?
Well, I misspoke. I shouldn't say rush, because they're obviously going to wait the 6 to 8. But
if he's fully healthy, they'll play him.
Yeah, instead of shutting him down, if they're in a race, he's going to play. Like, after the 8 weeks is done.
I agree with you, even if they're horseshit. Like, if they're a horrible team, if they are just horse crap, I want to make sure that I said horse, and clarify that. Horse crap.
A horse, of course.
Yeah, horse.
Is it a retired horse, though?
It is a retired horse.
This guy.
If they're playing like horse shit, and they're bad, they still want to see what they have in this kid. And let's also take in the fact, too, that New Orleans doesn't sell that many tickets. Yeah. So if they have this bright, shiny new toy,
they will if they go to the playoffs. Dave said he's buying.
I'm buying.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But also, the amount of primetime games they got this year,
we're talking regular season. Like, they want to see what they have in this kid. They want to get New Orleans excited about this team. And, hey, if that's only 27 games like Joel Embiid did in his rookie year, then it's only, or his, not technically his rookie year, but whatever year it was, I guess. The year that he had 27 was pretty much rookie of the year, even though he played like a third of the games.
Exactly.
Maybe they just do that, where they play him enough to see what they are, what he is. He can go through the NBA life and see what the schedule's like, see what the game-to-game basis is like, but you're not going to finish out the season. I think it's something like that. I don't think they're going to fully shut him down, because what do you gain in shutting him down? This isn't a team that needs another number 1 pick. They already have Drew Holiday, that is a great number 2.
Unless they want the Ball brothers on the same team.
You think Zion's going to be a number 1?
You're throwing fire right
your
now.
guy, and then number 3 option, that possibly is Brandon Ingram. That is Derek Favors in my mind. No one else is
I'm
on
not
this
even
Derek
going to
Favors
give you
train.
like a smidge of respect.
If I said Jahlil Okafor, would it be better to
yes,
Ja.
because 20 and 10 rolling out of bed.
Ja.
He hasn't done it, and Derek Favors has.
Ja will provide.
Maybe. I don't think Derek Favors has done 20
ever done 20 and 10.
Anyways. I think that there is no gain for them to tank this year, and that's the only way that you would keep him fully out, is if that A, he doesn't recover correctly and then he'll just re-injure himself. You don't want that. Or B, you're trying to tank, but you're not trying to tank. So I don't think there's a reason to do this. Final thoughts.
I agree with you. I don't think there's any reasonable way to have him stay off the court if he is fully healthy and medically cleared. The big concern to me just comes to, like, I'd love to see some stats around athletes who have meniscus tears, have surgery. Like, what's the recovery rate? What's the re-injury rate for this type of an injury versus a full tear, before? Because I know they do like the shave. We're going to shave off a little bit for some of them. There's such an intricacy around torn meniscuses and ripped and every different way it can happen. I'd love to actually get like medical information around what's the rate that this is going to happen again? What's the rate? Because we see the exceptions. Like, the NBA is nothing but the exception to the rule. Like, we're looking at the best 500 players for basketball in the world in most cases. There might be 1 or 2 guys in Europe who make it in there, but like 99% of that is you're looking at the best 500 athletes for basketball, and you're going to get outliers. You're going to get, we have these, freaks of nature kind of players like Giannis, like Pascal Siakam looks like. Brandon Ingram's a very weird shaped guy. Like, you don't see LeBron James walking around. So, the normal medical stuff, great, don't care. It's give me the history of athletes who have this surgery. I'd love to know more about that to judge if Zion's able to keep playing at this weight going forward, because I don't think so. I think he will have to slim down. I think that 250 is probably about where you want to be. I don't know, but I'm just guessing because I'm not Zion.
This is from a 2011 Reuters athlete that Reggie Williams, Eric Bledsoe has recovered from a torn meniscus. That's the only one that jumps out to me. So I mean, Eric Bledsoe apparently did this when he was on the Clippers.
Yeah.
A total of 1,671 reported knee problems. 129 tears were meniscus tears alone. I don't know. While 1 in 5 of the athletes never returned to play another NBA game after that injury, those that did return generally got back to their pre-injury playing level. So
yeah, it's not like most of them aren't gonna have a long-term problem. But I know, meniscus tears are something scary to Chicago people.
It's because of.
We have a personal.
But D-Rose is still playing.
Derek.
Yeah,
but not for us, and not how it should be.
Nobody's still playing.
But he was an MVP, and now he's a sixth man. Like that's sort of the.
But the NBA also drastically changed in that.
No, but he also got injured year over year over year. That's my thing. I'm always concerned about what's the next injury.
So far, this is just one injury.
Yep.
So
and
if
that's
this
why I'm
heals up and is fine.
Yeah.
And the only reason I don't want to say overreacting, but I'm going to say overreacting.
No, there's a spotlight on
is
it.
because it's Zion.
Yeah.
And the hype that comes around him. The only question I'm going to ask is the one that we kind of didn't is, let's say Zion misses, let's say he comes back at the latest late December. Can Ja do enough until then to get a early head race, and could he be a favorite now to win the Rookie of the Year?
I thought you were talking Ja Okafor, and I was like, what the fuck does Ja Okafor have to do with Zion outside of their teammates?
Morant. Does he become now an odds-on favorite to maybe steal the Rookie of the Year away from Zion?
He's the favorite right now, yes, because he has the opportunity to play a full 82, where Zion already is going to be behind the 8 ball.
Or is it RJ?
Is it a guarantee? No, because you do have RJ, you do have Michael Porter Jr., you do have Zion who can come back. I think the favorite's still Ja Morant, but I think Zion could still do enough. I mean, if Zion comes
40
back,
games of Zion probably can win an MVP or not MVP, Rookie of the Year. Yeah,
I think the thing too is if they start winning with him back, then that might push it a little bit further.
Absolutely, because the expectations for the Grizzlies are low. Pelicans are in that mid-range, scary Western Conference. You don't know if they're a playoff team or not.
Because if you're looking at this team, you're like, all right, what are they without Zion? And they're like, a 500 team, and then Zion comes back, and that propels them to like.
I'd be surprised they're 500.
Well, whatever. I'm just throwing something out there. If they're like a 25, their win percentage at like 25%, and then Zion propels them to a 500 team,
that'd be pretty incredible.
That could be something that could flip it. It just depends on when he comes back, and then if he plays less than 20 games, probably not. But if he plays 30 great games,
30,
he could.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're all feeling. 30.
So if he plays 30 great games, it's possible. It's just that he's not in the Malcolm Brogdon year of Rookie of the Year. He's going to be playing with a ton of great rookies like Ja Morant and RJ Barrett, Michael Porter Jr., and all the other guys.
God, that year was disappointing.
Oh, awful. Anyways, let us know your thoughts on the Zion injury. Are you worried about it? How is it going to affect the Pelicans? Obviously, it's going to hurt them early in the season, but long term as well. And then who do you think is going to win the Rookie of the Year? Dave, you changed your mind? You're going with Ja?
I think I had Ja in the first place, right? Yeah.
So you're sticking with Ja?
Yeah.
You changed from Zion?
No, Zion's going to win. Xanos is
You
inevitable.
brought up the question, so I was just wondering.
It's a topic. But no, he's inevitable, just like Thanos.
All right, I don't even get the reference. I'll go with Zion. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. But let's jump into the final topic, and that is where we are going to look at the major 5 rookie contract extensions that were handed out on Monday and over the weekend. We'll throw in Pascal Siakam. He was on Saturday, but we'll be talking about the 5 major extensions. I'll be ranking them best to worst for their teams and what they will impact, at least for their future. So we'll do Jaylen Brown, the Celtics, and him agreed to a 4-year, $115 million contract extension. That is with bonuses and all the other kickers involved. Buddy Hield, he signed for 4 years, $106 million. That is if all the contract things are reached out. I think the base is $98 million, but there are things that could get it up to $106 million. Domantas Sabonis signed with the Pacers for 4 years, $77 million. DeJounte Murray signed for 4 years, $64 million with the Spurs. And then Pascal Siakam with the Raptors re-signed for 4 years, $130 million. So let's start off in Boston. The guy that got the most and was at least the highly prolific, wasn't the most because Pascal Siakam got 130, but the guy that was at least at the top of the draft and got the most money, at least, out of those players was Jaylen Brown. 4 years, $115 million. Let's talk about it. What do you think first when you hear that deal reported, 4 years, $115? What was your first thought about Jaylen Brown and his extension?
It's a lot of money for a fourth option. There's a lot of money for the fourth option.
Is he a fourth option, though?
I mean, would you not say Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, and Jason Tatum are...
I think the Hayward thing's arguable, but it's definitely Tatum and Walker before him.
The way I looked at this the first time I saw it was like, well, Gordon Hayward's probably going to be gone. And the reason why I say that is let's say, even if he does take the option,
because why wouldn't he?
He's at $34 million.
Yeah.
After he's gone, where's that money going to go? Oh yeah, it's going to go to JT. Because JT is the next one that's going to get paid.
Right.
And if they give the money...
I think we're talking more about this year.
Yeah, I know. But like for me, I was thinking more of like, this year it doesn't change a thing. Like the only thing it changes is Jaylen Brown may not have a chip on his shoulder the same way he would have if he came in with no contract.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going to prove something because a lot of people doubted him. He had the hand injury early last year, kind of set him off.
But I think it would have been different. And yet again, we got to see how, because Celtics haven't played a game yet. I am assuming it's going to be a little different. And if he came in without that contract, for me, this contract says everything about the future of like, all right, how do you, like, you can't keep Gordon Hayward if you're going to lock down Jason Tatum. And I'm assuming the plan is to, okay, let's get now Jason Tatum his money because we got Jaylen Brown his money.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any hesitation whether the Jaylen Brown thing was done or not to get Jason Tatum extended. Yeah. I know he had a very, a sophomore slump at least last year, but I don't think anyone's doubting that he does still have a very high ceiling for his potential. I think the most shocking thing, though, is that it was given out in general because the talk that it was going to be a max deal, and I think it missed the max deal by like $12 million for Jaylen Brown.
That's just Danny Ainge being, what's the word I'm looking for? Spiteful, kind of like, oh, you want that max? Well, I ain't going to give you the max. It's going to be just shy of it.
I'd say trying to be a decent negotiator, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's a good GM. I think he's even still overpaid for this.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaylen Brown, he's not a guy that is massively exciting to me, and you signed a guy that you drafted highly for, and we said that was a reach at the point that when you drafted him, he was the third pick, I think, in that draft.
Extremely raw at UCLA.
Yeah, Cal. When we were putting him in, come on, Dave.
Played with Ivan
kind of
Robb.
California, and it was like
played with Ivan Robb.
He's a Marshawn Lynch and an Aaron Rodgers guy more than a Josh Rosen.
You're
guy.
right. You're right.
Or more of a less of a Jordan Farmar and more of I don't know any other Cal basketball players guy. Do I know any Cal basketball guys?
I'm sure you do.
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Ivan Robb.
And that's where the list ends. I'm sure there are
Jason Kidd.
Ryan Anderson.
Jason Kidd.
Good old
Jason
Ryan
Kidd was
Anderson.
a Cal. Jason Kidd was a Cal guy.
But yeah,
boom.
I remember that draft because we got roasted quite a bit.
Yeah, and
because we're like, guess what? He's a raw player who can't create for himself. He can't shoot very well, and he's just athletic. And guess what? He does real well right now. He's an athletic slasher.
Well, and one thing too is he shoots better than we thought, which is decent. We didn't think he would ever be around 36% for his career, which is true. Yeah. So he has improved that, and he has been a good 3-and-D player. And he's much better defensively than I think we gave him credit for coming out. He is a good defender, and he's a good shooter from the outside.
I don't know if he's a good shooter from the outside yet. I mean his free throw percentage to where it was, and then I feel like he got streaky at times. So I wonder, and he'll have a lot to prove. He was a good shooter after he came back from his injury. I think he can be a good shooter. He might be already.
You know who was a Cal Golden Bear? The next future coach of the LA Lakers, Jason Kidd.
He said that like 10 minutes ago.
I didn't hear it. I heard Alan Crabb.
You yelled. No one said Alan Crabb.
Oh, I thought I heard. I
said Ryan
Alan
Anderson,
Crabb.
And he's like, before that, he was
Jason Kidd.
Oh, I didn't hear you scream Jason Kidd. But yes, Alan Crabb is also a basketball alum of Cal. I was so into like who came out of Cal.
Point being, he's a better prospect than we expected. That's awesome because he was so raw coming out of college. But he also he's lived up in the biggest spotlight moments too. I think that's also helped his career. Is if you look at his playoff stats, it's night and day.
Would you sign Ricky to the max? Because
No.
I wouldn't.
No.
Come on. That is Bush League right there.
If I didn't know better, I think those headphones were just playing random music, and he couldn't actually hear the words we're saying because they're noise canceling.
I'm not bobbing
So
my
he's
head.
just waiting until he talks.
It's the Benny Hill music.
Yeah, he's just waiting to talk. Like, did you guys know that Jason Kidd?
Anyways, I just think with the Jaylen Brown stuff, I think it comes down to, like, they value the wing position so much.
Oh, yeah.
They give Gordon Hayward a ton of money, and obviously a lot of the reason why it didn't pan out was because of his injury. But they gave him a ton of money, and it didn't work out. They're giving Jaylen Brown a ton of money, and I don't think it's worked out so far. And obviously the extension is for 4 years, so we still have 4 years to see what he's going to turn into. But I think they're overvaluing him because he plays the wing position, where the wing is probably the most deep position in the NBA right now. You can find guys that can play decent defense or find guys that are good three-point shooters. They're probably looking at him that he is a good package of both, that he is a guy that shoots 36% over his career from three and plays good defense. But I don't think he's elite at either of them. You can get a guy who is an elite defender at the wing position and an elite shooter, and yeah, you might not be able to play those guys at the same time, but you have a coach for a reason. You have guys that can scheme out there. You need to be able to take that money and help this team more with the talent around them. Jason Tatum needs to be at least invested into more. And if you're giving Jaylen Brown this money, I think that kind of takes away from the investment that you can put into Jason Tatum, because you're going to need to get Jaylen Brown the ball. Jaylen Brown the ball. There's too many J's going around. You need to get Jaylen Brown the ball at some point. And I think you're gonna stunt Jason Tatum's development by this contract. And that's what's going to worry me, because you have a premium wing that is better already on your team. Go out then and put it into another guard or whatever, or put it into keeping Marcus Smart around, or going out and improving your center. Maybe just putting it back into
Marcus
Al
Smart's
Horford.
already on a contract, just saying.
I'm just throwing out.
Yeah, I know.
Things here. I know he
get a center
resigned
to finally play on your team. Enes Kanter isn't it?
Or reinvest that money into bringing back Al Horford rather than letting him walk. I mean, that's the thing that really annoys me here, is that I think they value the wing position too much when it is a very deep position, and you could find guys that can be specialists that probably give you better contributions than Jaylen Brown gives you solely defensively. You can find a guy that can give you better efforts, both either defensively or guys that can shoot just the three out there. I find this to be short-sighted, and $115 million is too much for me.
Short-sighted only because if you're not giving him the contract, if you're Danny Ainge, where are you going? What's your plan? You're getting rid of him?
This is the first guy he's signed to a post-rookie extension since Rondo.
Yeah, and that was in 2009.
Think about that. That's nuts.
I think...
But, if you're Danny Ainge, you're saying it's short-sighted, what would you have done instead of giving Jaylen Brown this contract?
He is a very intriguing piece that I think could work better on a team. You already have Gordon Hayward locked up for, $34 million. He's going to take that player option.
Oh, yeah.
Why not work him into that? You can add a guy that can pass from that wing position that gives you already shooting from the outside. He's not as good as a defender as Jaylen Brown is, but I would still, you already have the what's it called? The capital put into him when you signed him as a free agent. And I think that with Jaylen Brown, you have a more intriguing trade piece than you do with Gordon Hayward. What are you getting from trading Gordon Hayward? What can you actually get for him that a team is willing to give up? What team wants Gordon Hayward? Teams will want Jaylen Brown. So you can help your team by either getting future assets in draft picks, and you could get that too if he walks as an RFA. Yeah. But I just think that I just think that you are probably better off letting him play out his contract, see where he is, and see what the market dictates too. Because another thing is, with this whole China shit, we think that the salary cap is now going to go down.
It's got potential.
So that we don't know what the actual market is for Jaylen Brown. Let the market demand that, and you might throw out then, what if he goes out and some team throws a max at him? Let him.
The Charlotte Hornets.
Let them, because then Jaylen Brown's not going to hurt you. So either trade him or let the Hornets then just build up your bench team again and have Terry fucking Rozier and Jaylen Brown out there. I don't care. That doesn't hurt me. And then that way Jason Tatum gets the ball more. We can just let Gordon Hayward walk, and that frees up $34 million. And that way we can put it into upgrading the center position. Enes Kanter become a bench center for us, and we can have a big man that could set screens for Kemba Walker and have screens that's set for Jason Tatum.
And play defense and rebound.
And fill out the team with defensive players. I just think it's short-sighted because I think they're putting too much value into Jaylen Brown because he is young and they put draft capital into him.
See, I don't...
And that draft capital could have been spent on like an Anthony Davis that we know Danny Ainge wanted.
It's not... To me, it's not short-sighted because you signed Kemba Walker this year, right? This past offseason. Do you think Kemba signed with the Celtics to say, woo, let's get that draft capital, get the young kids in there, let's develop them? No. Kemba wants to make a run. Their contracts now line up to where even if Kemba opts out of his player option year, you still have Jaylen Brown for one more year. Jason Tatum, when he gets his extension, I'm assuming it's going to be a year from now when Jason Tatum gets it. I don't think he's going to play his contract year out. Then you'll have Jason Tatum the extra year after Jaylen Brown. And you ask, what do teams want from Gordon Hayward? Even if they're trading him in the offseason, cap relief. And what they can get from a team that maybe there's a team that's got veterans that can be like bench veterans for this team for like, hey, like they're going to add to our team.
I understand that Gordon Hayward is he's not untradeable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but who has more trade value, Jaylen Brown or Gordon Hayward?
Yeah, but it's what you're looking for.
That was my argument.
Yeah, but it's what you're looking for. I don't think the Celtics team is looking like Danny Ainge ain't looking to hoard the draft picks now.
He absolutely is.
No,
he always has.
He always is.
He's done it.
That's the problem.
And has it worked?
No, championship.
And that's why I think he's trying to show that, hey, it worked because we signed this guy. He's as good as Rajon Rondo because we signed him. He's the only guy that we re-signed because he missed out on Anthony Davis. He missed out on Paul George.
And
he missed out on Kawhi Leonard. He missed out on every single big guy. The reason you hoarded all those draft picks was to get a big name, and you're left with Kemba Walker, and I love Kemba Walker, but we all know that is not a big name out there. He was supposed to be the 3 to Anthony Davis and LeBron James. You weren't able to get either of those guys. You weren't able to get a big free agent. Danny Ainge missed out, and now he's panicking, and it's short-sighted because he doesn't want to look like an idiot right now or in the next 2 years. You could help your team more by developing Jason Tatum, by getting him the ball more, by showing him that he is the number one option. You can help out your team more because, yes, Kemba Walker might not win this year, but guess what? Kemba Walker doesn't care. He got paid, and Kemba Walker wasn't going to win in Charlotte anyways. He's not looking for a ring because we all know that this Celtics team isn't even going to win a ring this year with or without Jaylen Brown. So what you could do is go out and get more draft capital, and hey, we keep talking that Kawhi Leonard only signed a 2-year deal. Let's go out and get more draft capital, and let's see if any of these guys come available that we can go out and attack. And maybe it's a little bit, iffy now because all the guys seem to be locked down. Anthony Davis seems to be set in Los Angeles. Kawhi Leonard seems to be set in Los Angeles. Same with Paul George. Bradley Beal seems to be set in Washington. It seems like a lot of these guys are set, but it doesn't hurt to have draft capital. And I think that you can gain more from trading away Jaylen Brown and that way focusing more on having Jason Tatum be the guy because Gordon Hayward can play a tertiary role better than Jaylen Brown can.
I think that the whole thing that just throws this for a loop is the timeline because they had that amazing deal with Brooklyn where they robbed the Brooklyn Nets, completely fucked over their franchise. Somehow, look where Brooklyn's at. Not just saying. But when you have that much capital, but they were able to only miss the playoff. I think they only missed the playoffs for like 1 year after that, and they were back in it because they were able to be so competitive so early. It's thrown off the expectations of this team because Jaylen Brown was so good in the playoffs, because Jason Tatum was so good in the playoffs his rookie year. Like the expectations of this team should compete right now versus we've got so many picks and we don't even have the room to develop them because we're instantly competing for playoffs. Like I think that's kind of thrown all of this for a loop because I think they feel like they have to go and extend Jaylen Brown on this deal because he is still so young. He does still have so much room to grow because he was a raw product coming into the NBA.
Well, and you don't want to waste.
He's a proven no.
And you don't want to waste Kemba's contract. Because
but are you going to waste him by getting trading away Jaylen Brown? Is Jaylen Brown that important to this team?
I think he is. I think he's a momentum swing. I don't know if he's a $27 million
something like that
a year kind of guy. But
I look at it this way, and this is you can have this debate until you're blue in the face, but I'm still going to throw it out there. Of this was a team that we know that they have it in them somewhere. They just got to find it again. that without Kyrie, they had that stretch in the playoffs where they were phenomenal. Can they find that again? Can Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the Celtics team with Kemba find what they had that year? Because I don't think Kyrie fit with this team. I think it was great that they let him walk and got rid of him. And I think that the Celtics right now, they do have young pieces that they just drafted that they still have to develop, and getting more draft assets is not going to help. It's kind of like, hey, we're going to keep developing and developing, but you're never going to get to the point of like, okay, these guys are developed and now we're turning the corner to compete for a championship. Like Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, these are guys that they have under contract until right before Jaylen Brown's contract is up. So, I mean, I kind of feel like they're going to roll with their big three. Their big three contracts are going to be Kemba, Jaylen, Jason Tatum. They have the young guys that they are happy with. They drafted Romeo Langford. They drafted Grant Williams. We'll see how the Time Lord Robert Williams develops, because he hasn't been off to the hottest start.
Yeah.
Carson Edwards.
Carson Edwards. What they need are guys like, I would say Enes Kanter is one of them. A guy that's like, he's a veteran that can add to this team, and he's not going to break the bank. And I think that's what they're going to try to look for if they try to move on from Gordon Hayward. Guys that can add to this team, whether it's a starting power forward that's in the same vein as Enes Kanter, whether it's a guy that can come off the bench, or just a locker room presence that's not going to be $34 million.
Honestly, shocked they didn't go after Dwight Howard this year. I'm just saying.
I can see it.
My final
would have been a great fit.
My final thought on the Jaylen Brown stuff would just be, I don't see how Jaylen Brown helps Jason Tatum. And that's the only thing. Yes, they're both good players, but I don't see how it pushes your future star forward. And I think that they're just going to compete and battle for time and battle for positions. I don't think it does.
Jaylen Brown can't create for himself, so he's dependent on Jason Tatum passing him the ball.
And then it looks like Jason Tatum's worse because he's taking, contested mid-range jumpers, because that's where he gets the ball.
He's playing bailout.
Yeah, so I don't think that he helps him, and I think that they would be in a better situation. And maybe it's not just draft capital. I just throw out draft capital because that is something that Danny Ainge loves.
He loves, yeah.
But it could always be for a different player that is more valuable than whatever you get for trading a Gordon Hayward. Let's move into the other ones. We'll break it up. Dave, do you want Sabonis or do you want DeJounte Murray?
I'll take Sabonis. I know DeJounte's a fun one, but I think you want him.
So you'll take Sabonis. Ricky, obviously, you'll take the Wooden Award winner, and Buddy Hield. I'll take DeJounte Murray, and then we'll talk a little bit about Siakam, and then we'll rank these. But talk quickly about the Sabonis thing. What is the big thing that jumps out to you?
Utter confusion is the first thing that hits me when it comes to this extension. This is a guy they were literally shopping days before he signed this deal, because turns out when your best player, when one of your best players, not your best, Vic, when one of your best players in Miles Turner, a defensive monster, second best defensive center in the NBA, Sean will argue first, toss up. They don't fit together. They're two pieces that don't fit together. It's tough because, well, Miles Turner defensively is amazing guarding the low post. Sabonis has the size, but he doesn't have the same instincts. He doesn't have the same reach. So when you're playing two big guys who have a slower game speed, you're going to really slow down this team. And we've seen over the limited minutes that they did play together last year, it didn't work out great. Sabonis is extremely effective against second units. There's a reason why he was right behind Lou Williams, between that Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell selection for Sixth Man of the Year. He abused second unit centers because he does something unique where he's able to pass that low post, but he also is a very strong scorer there as well. I think this contract lines him up for, we'll give it a shot, and hey, if he looks great, great. If he doesn't, let's see if someone's interested in getting Sabonis on potentially a good deal, because I think there's teams out there he can start for because their lineups are more flexible or more able to accept his play style into it. So I think this is a setup move where I feel Indiana, hopefully it feels win-win, because it's not a huge deal. It's just, hey, we believe in you. We want to make sure this works. If it doesn't work, there's nothing out there being like, we can't move on from you, and feel not a ton of pain.
Sabonis, 4 years, $77 million. Buddy Hield, 4 years, $106 million. Ricky, what's the big thing that jumps out to you?
On the Kings side, I like this because you lock down Buddy Hield. And the thing that on the Kings side, I like this, where the most confusing side is the Buddy Hield side, because yes, it's filled with incentives. Like, finishing in top 10 3-point shooting, playoff experience. There's also on Spot Rack, it says $12 million unlikely incentives, whatever the hell that means.
I want to say there was something about maybe a finals.
Yeah, it's unlikely maybe we make the finals, something like that.
Something
or
in that
unlikely
realm.
you win the MVP, but you're an MVP.
That shit like that.
For the Kings,
You'll get $100 million if you
Believe in
MVP.
yourself.
For the Kings, I love it because I think Buddy is special, and I think that he's going to be something special for the Kings, and he's a guy that they can hang their hat on, and he can be the star in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And the thing that's great about it is if I feel like he's going to be up for a really good year this year, to where if he would have played out on a contract year, they'd be giving him more money. And now that they do it now, they give him less money than they would have. That's why I'm confused on the Buddy Hield side, because I almost would have wanted him to take the Fred VanVleet route. Bet on yourself. Play with a chip on your shoulder. Earn that extra dough. But maybe he's looking at it going, kind of like I almost said like the Zach LaVine way, but Zach went out and played for it in a contract year and got his money.
No, the Kings gave him his money. We were about to rob that man.
The Kings gave him his money. We were going to give him a lesser contract. But that's the only thing that confuses me is Buddy Hield taking this now and not betting on himself and potentially getting more money, unless he thought, hey, there's a chance I don't have a good year because of how this team plays me. Or maybe they're like, hey, let's not play him here because we don't want him to have a great year because he's in contract discussions.
Jimmy Butler him from the front office?
Basically. And he just said, fuck it, I'm going to take my money and just worry about playing basketball.
I think he wants to be in Sacramento. I think he likes the guys. I think he really has a good connection with De'Aaron Fox. I know those two guys got along great, and I think he likes the young core. But he said it in a press statement or in an interview.
And
I
now
thought
that
it was the
Jaeger's not
funniest
the
thing.
head coach.
Well, that's a toss-up. I don't know if Walton's an upgrade, downgrade, or what. But the fact that he was like, who's the last person who signed in free agency to Sacramento? Who wants to come here? He blatantly called them out on the fact that
He sounds like me.
we're not an attractive team to players in the NBA, even though we're in the right state. We're not the place people want to go and play.
Two up north.
So
It's hard that you got two teams
If he
down
wants to
south
go get
that are a lot
paid.
better than you.
yeah, if he wants to go get paid, he could have gone somewhere else. I think this is a sign of his trust in the organization or his trust in the other guys on that team, where he likes this young core.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Kings is they absolutely got to steal.
Oh yeah,
Because if you flip the Beal and Brown contracts, the Hield and Brown contracts, would have loved it. If you're giving Buddy Hield that money, I think he's absolutely worth it. You're not going to find a guy that is that good right now at shooting the basketball. That is a
his volume,
premium
too.
price. That guy is so fucking good at what he does.
Do you think Buddy Hield also did this in a set to take in what Dave, the comments that Buddy made? Do you think this is Buddy also saying, hey, I'm going to take kind of like the Tom Brady thing of I'm going to take less money. I could bet on myself and get a contract like Jaylen Brown, but no, I'll take less money. So if we're because he's expecting to play well, he wants this team to be good. Hey, we have now extra room so we can get somebody else, get someone in here so that we can compete in this Western
You're
Conference.
doing too many mental gymnastics here. I think they'd be fine with bird rights and all that stuff.
No, I'm saying
they can go over the cap and all that
Buddy
stuff.
is thinking hey, I want to get somebody in. I want to get players in here to help us.
No, I know what you're saying. I think it's you're doing too much stretching there. I don't think he's thinking about that. And even then, I think they still have the ability to have a max, even if they extended Buddy,
as long
De'Aaron,
as
and then if
De'Aaron's
they got rid
contract
of
hasn't been tossed up yet.
and then I think that if they got rid of Barnes. So
Yeah.
I think if they just had those two extended, they would still be able. And the Bogdan is going to be up as well, but he's not going to get a max.
And he's not going to get a max, but he didn't get an offer, which is interesting. And he also is probably one of the top 5 players now for one of the weakest years of free agency we've seen in recent memory.
So that's the thing is it's not going to be a loaded free agency class, and also they're going to be able to offer the max that everyone else can. So then it's literally just them selling him on Sacramento. So I think you're stretching it too much to try to find something there. I don't think it's going to affect the way that free agency is going to hit them. I just think it's an absolute great get by the Sacramento Kings. Buddy Hield said all of that, yet you were still able to get him for an absolute steal of a contract. Final one we'll talk about, and we'll get a little bit into Siakam as well. DeJounte Murray, 4 years, $64 million. DeJounte Murray, I think, is De'Aaron Fox light in a way. Very good with the ball, can be a very skilled passer. Not as fast as De'Aaron Fox is, not as athletic as he is, but defensively he is a monster. He can
a long boy.
He can guard people straight up, shut them down no matter what. But he also has that De'Aaron Fox in him that he is aggressive and he will go for steals and he will overplay his matchups. But he does it in a very much better way. So I think there's very similarities in their games. And if you're telling me you can get De'Aaron Fox for 4 years, $64 million, that's an absolute steal. That's what DeJounte Murray got. And yes, you're not going to do that because De'Aaron Fox
can shoot.
But I think Murray still has some hope.
Oh, absolutely, there's hope. But I mean, like. De'Aaron Fox
if Jaylen Brown could shoot, if Jaylen Brown could shoot 36% from three, DeJounte Murray can, and I think that Murray's shot isn't broken at all.
No.
We look at the free throw stuff; it's around 70%. But even the shot itself, there's no hitches. There's no like. It's
but he's very
fluid.
comfortable going, attacking the basket, and that little mid-range floater that he uses quite a lot.
He's not going to be like De'Aaron Fox because De'Aaron Fox has a more fleshed out game, and also De'Aaron Fox was picked 5th overall, where DeJounte Murray was picked 27th or something like that. Yep. It's an absolute steal for the Spurs.
How can they keep doing this?
You have an absolute cornerstone of your franchise now locked up for 4 years because you don't know what's going to happen with DeRozan. You don't know what's going to happen with LaMarcus Aldridge. But this is a guy that's going to be locked up for your franchise for the next, I think, 5 years. So that is an absolute huge steal for them. $64 million is a steal. And now it opens up their ability, once DeRozan comes off the books, once Aldridge comes off the books, to possibly make plays in free agency. We don't know. I mean, I can't remember the last big free agent they signed, but maybe now is the time for them.
6-year-old Paul Gasol.
I guess it would be LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, no, it's definitely LaMarcus. But one last caveat to that: the contract has to be that low because of his injury, right? Like that's the only excuse I can find to why you would pay so little for someone who early in his career already is all defense second team. I mean, wow. But that injury, hopefully, it's a one and done thing, and he's able to stay healthy.
It was a torn ACL, which I mean isn't great.
We just got done talking meniscuses.
But we've seen so many guys come back off that injury, and I don't think there's been any concerning reports so far about him coming back. And if anything, it's all hype about him coming back. Absolutely. So I think it's an absolute steal for him. Take a gamble.
Do you think that this is, because Dave makes a good point, yet again, I threw it out with Buddy Hield, like if you're DeJounte Murray, why not bet on yourself? Hey, I can be healthy this year and get more money. Or is this like, do you think any thought was in his head of like, yeah, but what if I get re-injured? Then I'm kind of screwing myself. Let's just take the contract here, and then I at least get my money and I get locked down.
For him, I don't think it's a horrible idea to take that money for what you said.
Do you think the thought of re-injury though entered his mind with this, and
I'm sure
might have
probably
swayed him towards?
That's why I don't think I could say it's a bad idea. You just hurt yourself, but you can guarantee that you're going to get $64 million.
I also think that part of it was probably due to the negotiations of being like, do what's best for the team. Because that team has that culture. And he grew up on that team, so...
And it seems like he's bought in as well. Yeah. It seemed very well that he's just locked on to Pop, and he's been a guy that's gotten minutes right away because he's bought into the
No, he didn't get
culture.
Minutes right away.
Well, no, but like he's...
He learned his lesson
but
on
for
the bench.
sophomore, like, that's a thing.
No,
like,
he got the reins as a sophomore. I mean, it's incredible.
I think part of the reason why he didn't get the playing minutes right away in his freshman year was they still had Tony, they still had Manu, but along with that, too, is he wasn't a high draft pick.
Yeah.
So he had to work his way. He worked his ass off, got those minutes, and now got rewarded for it. Final one is Pascal Siakam, 4 years, $130 million. Any issues with this?
They had to do it.
It's a smart move.
Did they?
No, they did. They had to, like, Siakam's the big name. Like,
without playing a game.
After Kawhi left, like, this is something where I saw it and I was like, they had to do it. If they would have not done this and he would have potentially walked in free agency, it would have looked really bad on the Raptors.
They can't match deals.
No, I know, but like if it did happen that way, like this is something where it's like we locked him down.
Money to throw around
He's
anyway.
the future.
Got a bunch of one-year deals.
Who else are you going to lock down on this team? Who else are you going to throw that big contract at? So it's like, to me, it's like made sense. They had to do it.
Yeah, I just wonder, without him playing, without Kawhi for a season, I think it would be interesting.
We already went over this, though.
I know.
That his numbers didn't change without Kawhi.
He actually played better.
Yeah, so, like, I don't see the issues here. Cause, like,
so why would he sign it now when he could get more money next year, right?
So you're saying you don't like it from his standpoint?
They may not be as high as
I don't know because he was a second-round pick, right?
No, he was a first-round pick.
Oh, he was?
He was like 28th, I think. He was very late. But you're saying that you don't like this from a Siakam standpoint?
I wonder from a Siakam standpoint if he goes out there and has like a 24, 8-3 season, something just ridiculous performance, being the guy on the Raptors. Like, is there a chance he could have gotten a better contract? Is my question. I don't know because I'm not a contract wizard.
No, I don't think so, right?
What did he sign? He signed a
4-year, 130.
So it would have been how come? What was Jamal Murray's was a 5-year, 170 though?
It's 5-year though. I think you can only offer him a 4-year because of the place they were selected. Because
like Ben Simmons, that's the thing that I was.
Ben Simmons got a 5-year. Murray got a 5-year. I think if you're like I think you have to be like a top 50, like a lottery pick to get that 5, the 5th year. I don't know where the 5th year comes in, but at least the common thread has been the
comment section. Tell us what's up.
The common thread has been the place that they have been selected, and I think it has to go in with usually the lottery picks. You want to be able to have those teams be able to keep them long term because of usually those teams are shit, and usually they're like in smaller markets, so it's tougher for them to keep around. So I think it's just to maintain the length that they stick around. I think he got the max for what he could have gotten.
Okay, if that was the case, then sure.
Yeah, so I think it's a great move all around. I mean, I'm not worried about what he's going to do without Kawhi. Right now, in the first game without Kawhi,
they're losing.
It's halftime and they're down by 5. But he's 4 of 10 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, but 8 of 8 from the line.
He's already got clamps on him.
He's already got 9 boards. He's got 16 points. So I mean, like that's
what I'm saying. At
halftime, damn well.
16 and 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he comes out and has a ridiculous season, like, is there a way he could have qualified for another? I know there are certain situations where it's like, if you make the All-NBA team or if you make this, you can open up those extra
I don't know
avenues for cash.
I don't know if that's just possible, though, with where he was selected.
Okay.
So that's the thing is I'm not enough of a cap genius to do all of this stuff, but he is a max player set to make $29 million in 2020-21 and then just $35 million in the 4th and final year. So that's all I know. He did get maxed out, though. So I don't think
good deal then.
Yeah, I don't think there is
maxed,
an issue with
absolutely.
this. So anyways, let's go into ranking these deals. Those are the 5 deals that we're talking about. So rank them best to worst. Which deal do you like most? Which deal do you like least? 1 through 5. We got Jaylen Brown, we got Domantas Sabonis, we got Buddy Hield, we got DeJounte Murray, we got Pascal Siakam. 1 to 5, go.
So I'll go Buddy Hield number 1, DeJounte Murray number 2, Jaylen Brown number 3, Siakam number 4, Sabonis number 5.
Why Sabonis 5?
Just because, like Dave said, it's you were trying to shop the guy. He doesn't fit necessarily next to, because Miles Turner's the guy you're keeping. Like, he doesn't really fit next to him. It was just something that confused me, where it's like, he's going to get shopped still, right? Like, this is just something that maybe like, hey, we're trading him to you, but now you get to keep him. We're looking at those teams rather than the teams are like, well, he's a free agent at the end of the year. So it's straight confusion. And then the Siakam one, the only reason why I have it at 4 is because it's like, well, I expected it to happen. Like, it's not something that's ground shaking that he got an extension from a max extension from the Raptors.
Yeah, I would say that's a good caveat in there. I would do, first off, number 1 being Buddy Hield, number 1. I think that's an absolute steal for the player you're getting at the contract. Not having him sign a max, I think that's huge. I mean, that's just showing, that's Vivek flexing right there. That's a baller move, being like, yeah, this guy is a stud. I mean, we were paying 4 years, $106 million for a guy that is just an absolute premium throughout the league. There's 10 guys shooting above 40% from 3 that are taking over 5 a game. He's one of them. He is a guy that is a lights out shooter. We talking about him big like Steph, or was it?
It's big like Clay, shoots like Steph.
So you get that guy for 4 years, 106. Yes, please. Then I would probably put the Siakam second, because yes, that is the max, but again, it's good. It shows the future, and I think that it doesn't hurt the team. It doesn't hurt Siakam at all. It's a good deal all around, and I don't think there's any question marks about it. So I think that's the reason why I put him 2. I don't disagree with your thought process though, putting it 4, because it was kind of just an inevitability.
Yeah.
3, I'll put DeJounte Murray. Biggest concern is with the injuries, but if it's not a thing, he could easily be the best steal out of all of these players. Then 4, I'll put Sabonis. I'm not too worried about the whole trade thing because they're just putting themselves in a situation that now can get more trade value for Sabonis. So I think that's a good thing for this team. And with small market teams, you need to be able to flex every single option. You need to look at every single avenue to help your team out. And that's what the Pacers have always done. That's why the Pacers have been very good throughout my whole entire lifetime, because they are in the Spurs of the East, as close as you can get to that.
It was the Hawks before them. The Hawks were. It was the Budenholzer Hawks. Come on.
Whatever.
But I agree. They have been. They went from the Danny Granger days to
Reggie Miller first, because they were still making they were still in they were in the finals in the early 2000s. So it was like the Miller, then the Granger days, and the Jermaine O'Neal days were in the middle.
Yeah.
So and then they went from that to
Granger
the Paul George, and then to the Vic. So I mean, it was
they transitioned to be a competitive franchise for the last 2 decades.
And I think that's just a part of it. I'm not too worried about that. The biggest thing I think is just the lack of cohesion that we did see between Sabonis and Miles Turner. I'm not saying that it's not ever going to work. It definitely can.
Yeah.
But let's see. There is more question marks with that. Evan, the worst one is Jaylen Brown, without a doubt. Bad contract. I don't like the dollar amount that you signed him for, because just to put this in perspective, when the Bucks did this with Giannis Antetokounmpo, 4 years, $100 million. Different NBA, right? A little bit more money. But I think if you scaled up that Giannis contract, it'd be the same as Jaylen Brown. That's a bad fucking move.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not on the same level. I don't think it's going to be as bad as you think it is.
Y'all gave a lot of reasoning behind. I'm just going to give you the straight facts then. Buddy Hield, number 1. DJ at 2. Pascal 3. Sabonis at 4 and Brown at 5. The reasons are pretty much the same that you guys have stated. That's the only reason I didn't want to get into it. The only point I did want to make was that after listing all 5 of these, I want to just throw in that little spicy nugget of Jamal Murray, the 5-year 170.
Yeah,
where would you put him on this list?
I would put him
because I feel like that's a massive thing.
Jaylen Brown.
But at the same time, he's the number 2 on a guy who, you guys went into the playoffs last year. You had a fantastic season as the 2nd seed in the tough West.
I would go Buddy, DeJounte, Jamal, Jaylen, Siakam, Sabonis. So
you think Jaylen's contract is really good then? You think max deal, he's 100% worth it?
It would be him and Jaylen is where I would I'd flip them or whichever one.
Because
Jamal's contract isn't hurting anybody, and that's the reason why I think it's better than Jaylen. It's a bad price tag for that player that has a lot of question marks, but if he does pan out, I like his ceiling better than Jaylen Brown's, because he is a guard that can shoot from miles away, and he can get hot, red hot in the playoffs. Where Jaylen Brown's had good moments, but I don't think Jaylen Brown can take over a game like Jamal Murray can scoring wise. I think the other thing too is my biggest issues with Jaylen Brown is how is it going to affect your star? Jamal Murray's just going to help your star in Nikola Jokic. So I really don't hate that move.
They seem to be really paired well.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I think the other thing too is it might hurt your abilities to bring back a Gary Harris or Malik Beasley, whatever. Yeah. But I think the trifecta in Denver is going to be Jokic, Murray, and Porter. I think that's what they put them in a position to do. Or Bobo.
Interesting. And
I put him above Brown, but it's not great.
So a question that's unanswerable really is who deserves the max more than Siakam or Murray?
Siakam.
You think Siakam does?
Yeah, he's more of a mismatch, without a doubt. I mean, he's a guy that went to the finals, performed extremely well, and he's a guy that at 6'9" is someone that is very invaluable if he is going out there and affecting the game the way he did last year, but getting more minutes and getting more touches. More touches. I mean, if he's a guy that you don't find guys like that.
Yeah, and he can defend 1 through 5 basically.
And he's shown that he can be a very unique scorer. So I think that obviously he's not going to be ever Giannis level, but he is in that weird factor of being a big guy that can handle the ball a little bit, that can play pretty decent defense, or to even good defense, and can even shoot a little bit. So I think finding a guy that is unique, that's unique, is much more different than Murray. I think they did Murray because he fits well with the star that they currently have. Siakam could be the future.
You're hoping Murray somehow pans into like a Dame Lillard type player. That'd be pretty good being top point guard.
I don't think he could beat Dame though.
No, I'm just saying in the same mold. Like they athletically, they're similar. Yeah. I think build-wise, they're similar.
Dame's a little bit bigger, right?
I don't know what the new measurements, man.
Seems bigger.
I don't know. Dame's probably, but he muscle-wise, you think? Yeah.
I think Dame's also better at creating a shot. And he's more consistent. He's more consistent in his actual
21,
shot.
right? Or 22?
22.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Like, if you try to go to that upside of, like, what is he at his peak? If he could be in the mold of a player, you've got Dame Lillard versus Giannis. I understand the argument.
I think it's just tough because I'm so used to seeing Dame with another great guard.
Yeah.
And then Murray, it's different because they're playing in more of a system rather than
6'11"
Dame being
and 300 pounds.
Yeah. Well, and also Dame's not playing in a system where those two are.
Yeah.
So I think it's just tough to picture that. But you're probably not off. Final thoughts?
To answer Dave's question, it's a push between Murray and Siakam.
They both earned it.
The Siakam one, his stats will be there, but is he the guy that you can build the championship team around? I have questions about it.
Okay.
But with that, I think we are undervaluing what being a competitive team means. And we saw the Raptors be in such dog shit years in the Chris Bosh, the Andrea Bargnani, the post Vince Carter, pre Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan thing. This is just giving you a guy that is 100% stable and that he is a guy that, since he is so unique, is worth that money because he might not be a number one, but he could be a very deadly number two. I think that's why he is worth that max. I understand. I don't know if Siakam could be a one.
He's
a decent point, but
he's worth it. But I just look at it like this year. This year he'll probably, even if he has better stats, they're going to be a fifth in that weak East.
Yeah,
I think they could be better. I think they could go all the way up to third.
But that's not because
I don't think they will, but I think there's
the money he's making or anything like that. It's just because they lost Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly.
Well, it turns into building around someone who has unique skill set and size like him is kind of difficult. If you look at the NBA, you have to be so good at it to make it a benefit. There's a reason why there are so many guys who are that 6'7" to 6'9" range who can ball handle, create a little bit, but they're not good enough to build around. And other guys haven't had the opportunity yet. We mentioned briefly was the BI thing. This year he's got a chance because you got Zion out and you expect him to be a primary ball handler on that team. So it's what can you do if he is the guy?
He's still not in a prime position too because they didn't really build around him.
Right, and that's my question is now they get to reload this Raptors team. Yeah. Basically their contracts are all up after next year and they can just completely build this team around him because I think he can be good enough to build around.
And I think another thing too is you were in such a great spot if your three that are taking you into the future are Masai Ujiri, Nick Nurse, and Pascal Siakam. Yeah. So I think it's a great contract, and that's why I'd put Siakam above Jamal Murray. Okay. Anyways, let us know your thoughts on all these contract extensions. I know that Celtics fans won't be happy with this one. Let us know, though, down in your comments why you're not happy instead of you guys suck, because that's not constructive.
They're just not going to be happy with you. You're the one bashing.
You're just pooping on the Celtics. That's my job usually. What's up?
It's a bad contract. I like Jason Tatum more. Shoot me.
That's clear.
Shoot me. Am I wrong?
I think Jason Tatum's shown more upside because he's a more complete player. Yeah. I agree.
He's younger. So give him the
he's 12.
Give him the damn ball more. Anyways, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below about all these contract extensions. That's going to do it, though, for the fast break. Check us out on patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. You can help support all of the podcasts on this podcasting network. That was gross. You could support all the podcasts on this podcasting network. We're trying to get out of this room, so if you want to support us, check us out at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We got draft stuff coming soon. We also got regular season reactions coming soon as well. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. For Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time.